thank you. Another month, another story. This one's a little different. It's called a proposal. It's not quite what you think it's going to be. The room was uncomfortable. The king was in his chair with his daughter close by, and the two young attendants standing behind. Last to arrive was the aged and scarred wizard with the two attending old ladies to make sure he was comfortable. With a slight wave of her hand, the four attendants were dismissed. The room sat in silence. She gave a slight nudge to his chair to awaken the king. "You called for us," the young woman gently reminded the king. Yes, he sputtered. "Wizard, with your men you turned the tide of the attack and saved us all. Now I want to reward you by giving you my daughter's hand in marriage and the right to rule this land." The speech seemed awfully awkward. This time the silence made the room even more uncomfortable. "Your Majesty," the wizard began, "for a man to gain the metaphysical power such as you witnessed, he must surrender those attributes required for marriage. Now he can reclaim those attributes, but he will lose the medical physical powers which would be little use to your kingdom. In addition, if I were to marry your daughter, the exertion required to fill my husbandly duties would probably kill me, considering my age, or leave your daughter sorely disappointed." The king was now fully awake and his face confused. "Well, what will happen when I die?" His voice trailed off, and he looked at the wizard with pain. "Your daughter will rule," the wizard responded. "But girls can't rule," he countered. "Your Majesty, look at your daughter. She's a grown woman and has ruled in your name for the past 10 years. If you were to travel about the city, you would see clean streets, stalls with merchandise your subjects have produced, schools, medical houses, all the signs of a prosperous land. Your treasury is almost full, and grain has been stored for the winter. Even after all the effects of war, your people are strong and rebuilding, and in time she will pick a husband. Your daughter is loved throughout the country, and they will rejoice when you name her as your heir," the wizard countered. The king looked even more feeble, and with tears in his eyes, looking to his daughter, responded, "Is it really so? She is so much like her mother." Slumping in his chair, he said, "It's time for her to be acknowledged. I am tired. Return me to my bed." And with that, the princess rang a small glass bell on the table beside her to summon the attendants. Speaking for the first time, the princess turned to the wizard. "You are not only a wizard, but a sage as well. How can I reward you?" "I have long roads to travel, but my feet are so tired," he answered after some thought. "A small cart and a kindly creature to pull it would be most welcome." "How quickly do you want to leave?" she asked. "Tomorrow or the next day, whenever at your convenience," was his response. She stood up and opened the door for the wizard's attending ladies. Turning to the wizard, she added, "It will be as you requested." Softly she added, "There aren't enough words to thank you for saving this land and me." And with that, she left. Just after daylight the next morning, a king's messenger knocked on the door of the historian with a request to present a list of all the past rulers to His Majesty by noon. The old man could never remember such an urgent and odd request, and assured the messenger he would deliver the information on time. About the same time, the princess arrived in the stable. inquiring about a cart to be pulled by a pony. It took the stable master, a moment to comprehend her request, but regaining his wits assured her that such a get-up could be available the next morning. But he did not recommend a pony, suggesting that a donkey might be suitable, as ponies can be mischievous with a novice driver. Very well, make it so, she said, and left. Throughout the day, messengers saddled up and headed to various landowners with sealed pouches. Rumors began to spread, but those who knew kept silent. As promised, the historian appeared before the king and recited the list of all known rulers. The king listened intensely, only grunting occasionally, leaving the historian baffled. Next, he sent messengers to his 2 counselors and his daughters to join him for a private dinner that night. Now the kitchen was flustered at the request for a plain dinner for 4 in the king's private meeting room. The meal was served and the servants left. "Gentlemen," the king began, picking up his goblet, "a toast to the queen. Before you say anything, now listen. The historian has acknowledged there have been several women in the past who have ruled in their own right. My daughter is going to be one of them now. Your job is to draw up the necessary proclamation and prepare for her coronation." Stunned, the 2 counselors sat holding their goblets, looking first at the princess, then the king, before regaining their composure. Finally, they rose to their feet. "Hail to the queen!" and a joyous feast began. Servants listening at the door quickly spread the news, causing a riot in the kitchen that spread throughout the castle. After breakfast, the now queen and wizard arrived at the stable yard to find a cart with a donkey hitched. Provisions were stowed, but before leaving, the queen pressed a small coin into the wizard's hand. "If you should ever be in peril, throw this into the air and help will arrive," she whispered, and then left with a final wave of her hand. Puzzled, the wizard put the coin in his pouch and clucked the donkey forward to walk out the stable gate. Down the hill and around the bend, out of sight of the castle, the wizard began to shrug off the facade of an old man. His shoulders straightened and the various aches and pains subsided. The donkey plodded along, giving the wizard time to examine the coin. Each had the image of an eagle in a fighting stance, but it was made of a common metal and appeared to be nothing of value. Shrugging, the wizard stuffed it back into his pouch. By this time, he began to notice the donkey's pace had quickened, and she appeared to be whiter. Chalking this transformation to his youth returning, he investigated no further and enjoyed the passing scenery. When suddenly the donkey stopped, he was lurched forward, nearly losing his balance. Standing in a T intersection, the donkey, now all white, looked back at him as if to say, "Where to now, stupid?" Left would take him back to the mountain village where it all began, but right would take him to the city that had caused the battle. These seemed to be his only 2 options, and he sat contemplating first one direction, then the other. Finally, exasperated and bored, the donkey stepped forward into the head-high grass. "Whoa, whoa!" called the wizard, pulling on the reins. "Whoa, donkey!" It was several steps into the tall grass before the donkey stopped. Turning to look back at the confused wizard, she said, "I am not a donkey. I am a mule, and my name is Molly. Mules are smarter than horses and stronger than donkeys. Got that?" Her ears pinned back and a vicious look was on her face. "You're talking," the wizard stammered. "Do you think you're the only one with magic on this whole green plain?" she hissed back at him. "Look behind you." Turning, the wizard saw no tracks in the grass. Now he sat still. "We're being followed, and not by nice people either," she said as she pushed forward. Stunned into silence, the wizard let the reins go slack and kept trying to keep his balance as Molly's pace quickened. Even with magic, it was heavy going in the tall grass, and soon the wizard began to feel Molly's sweat flying back into his face. Just as he thought the mule would collapse, they broke out of the grass and into a small clearing in front of a vertical rock face. Molly didn't slow down, but ran into a tunnel that appeared out of nowhere. Once inside, the wizard saw the rock face had closed behind them. Head sagging, Molly struggled to catch her breath, only to be chastised by the stable manager standing in front of them. The wizard shook his head, trying to comprehend the event. Yes, it was the stable master, but now he seemed so much smaller. "Hurry along, donkey," the stable master said. This time, instead of pinning her ears at being called a donkey, she lifted her eyes and lifted her ears and put a big grin on her face. "Yes, gnome." For a little person to be called a gnome is an insult of the lowest degree. The tunnel got icy cold and dark as the little man turned to face her. His eyes became a menacing red, and he took a step forward. But her ears stayed up, and the grin became even larger. The wizard was so dumb. Silence rocked his spears so that the cave would not fall on them. Surprisingly, the little man suddenly stood erect and laughingly offered Molly a deep bow. "Ah, I see that Madam has found her voice. If she would please follow me to safety, my dear Molly." And turning, opened the rock before him with a wave of his hand. Thank you.